Hey guys, Brad Danger here, and do you know that feeling when you walk into a dealership and it's weirdly quiet, like a library, but the books are $70,000 trucks, and the librarian is a guy named Kyle who just asked if you want to talk monthly payments? Yeah, that. Because this year, the US car market is doing the thing it always does right before reality shows up with a folding chair. Everybody's been screaming crash for like 3 years, which, yeah, is annoying. Because eventually you sound like the guy yelling earthquake every time a truck drives by. But the difference now is the data is stacking up in a way that's hard to meme away. We're not guessing, we're not doom scrolling, we're reading the receipts. So today, we're talking about the car market crash that is happening right now. Not the TikTok version, the actual version, the one where you can point at the chart and go, see that? That is a problem. That's why your neighbor's lifted truck suddenly has a for sale sign and a personality change. First, let's talk about the big numbers that make lenders sweat through their polo shirts. That's auto loan debt. According to the New York Fed's household debt reported in the fourth quarter of 2025, auto loan balances were about $1.66 trillion, and credit card balances were about $1.28 trillion. And that matters because people don't buy cars with vibes, they buy cars with debt. And when the debt gets piled up this high, even small changes in rates, insurance costs, or jobs can turn I'm fine into I'm 2 payments behind on my car, and it's about to get towed while I'm inside ordering nuggets. Now, here's the part that separates market slowdown from market faceplant: negative equity. Edmunds says in the fourth quarter of 2025, a record 27% of underwater trade-ins had 5-figure negative equity. That's people rolling at least $10,000 into an IOU more than it's worth into the next loan. Edmunds also breaks it down even further. About 17.4% owed between $10,000 and $15,000. About 9.2% owed over 15 grand. Now, that's not a fun little accounting error. That is a treadmill. You're running, you're sweating, you're technically moving, but you're still in the exact same spot, except now you're paying interest on your sadness. And the monthly payment data is even uglier. Edmunds says buyers rolling negative equity into a new loan hit an average payment of $916 a month in that same quarter. Meanwhile, the overall average new vehicle payment was $772. $916 per month is not, I love cars. That's, I have made a series of decisions and now the consequences have their own zip code. So what happens when a huge chunk of buyers are now upside down, payments are already inflated, and affordability is cooked? You get more delinquencies, more repossessions, and more forced sales, which is the part that actually pressures prices. And on the topic of delinquencies, Reuters reported that in October of 2025, the share of subprime borrowers were at least 60 days delinquent hit a record 6.65%, citing Fitch ratings. Prime, well, they stayed low, but subprime is where the stress shows up first. And on repos, the cleanest defensible stat you can use is the Cox Automotive's estimate for 2024 because it's widely reported and tied to a credible source. Yahoo Finance reported that Cox Automotive estimates that annual repossession rose about 43% between 2022 and 2024, up to about 1.73 million in 2024, the highest since 2009. Now, can you find people claiming 2.2 million repos already this year? Yeah, you can. Local news outlets ran that number with a projection north of 3 million for the full year. But if you actually want your video to survive the comment section, you frame it like this. Repos, well, they are rising fast. The most recent full year estimate that we can point to is 1.73 million in 2024. And multiple reports say that 2025 ran even hotter. Now, let's talk new cars for a second, because everybody thinks that the crash is going to come from used cars. And yeah, used cars, well, it gets weird. But the reason used cars gets weird is because new cars are doing the financial equivalent of walking into a room and screaming. I mean, Kelley Blue Book just reported that the average transaction price for a new vehicle was $49,191. They also said the average MSRP was $51,288, and that MSRPs had been about $50,000 for 10 straight months. So the floor is higher even before you get into the cool stuff like this, which you can actually just win. And if you click the pin first comment, you get 2,000 bonus entries locked in with any purchase on the site. And honestly, the basic act of buying a new car now is pretty much a luxury purchase wearing sweatpants. And incentives, the thing that was supposed to help, are doing some sneaky things. Kelley Blue Book said incentives in January were about 6.5% of transaction price, roughly $3,200. That's down from December when incentives were higher. So consumers are staring at an all-time high-ish price, and incentives aren't consistently swooping in like Batman. Now, let's bring in inventory, because inventory is the gravity of this whole situation. You can't just keep prices high forever if cars are sitting. Cox Automotive inventory report for January 2026 said inventory was about 2.77 million units, and day supplies rose to 98 in January. They also had average listing prices around $49,248. 98-day supply is not hot market. 98-day supply is these cars are sitting here for quite a long time type of market, and they're pretty much just becoming furniture. And the best part is this: Cox is clear about why. It wasn't inventory exploding, it was demand cooling while supply, well, it stayed steady. That distinction really matters because it tells you what kind of crash you're actually looking at. If supply explodes, prices collapse fast. That's a flood. If demand cools while supply stays steady, you get a long, ugly squeeze. Dealers start getting creative. Automakers start throwing rate deals. You start seeing employee pricing for everyone. And eventually, reality shows up anyway, just slower, like a horror movie villain that doesn't run because it doesn't have to. Now, what about used cars? Because every crash story eventually turns into used values are plummeting, with a dramatic zoom on a sad Corolla. But here's the twist for early 2026. Wholesale used values were not in free fall at all at the start of this year. Cox Automotive Manheim Used Vehicle Valuation Index for January 2026 rose to 210.5, which they said was up 2.4% versus January a year earlier, and also up month over month. Yo guys, quick pause because this is super important. The giveaway is live right now, and we're giving away this fully built, dripping in carbon Supra, 4 months in the making. And guys, it is the Tuner Hero spec, plus a Shelby GT350 with an exhaust that sounds absolutely ridiculous. So, if you want to win, you've got a decision to make. Do you get the JDM Legend, or do you get the American Icon? And guys, for a limited time, every purchase that you make on the site, which is pinned in the first comment down below, you get 2,000 bonus entries to win one of these cars, plus bonus cash, hat, shirt, entry pack, it don't matter. That's 2,000 extra chances on top. And Rocky from New York grabbed a quick entry pack last time and walked away with a GTR plus bonus cash. So yeah, it definitely happens, and we're running it back with 2 cars. So which one you picking? Let me know in the comments down below, and go get entered as well, and good skill. So if someone says wholesale values are plummeting, you don't repeat that. You say this instead. Wholesale values have stabilized compared to the wild pandemic swings, and early 2026 showed seasonal strength, but that does not save consumers, because the pain is coming from the payments, the negative equity, and the credit stress, not just auction prices. Because just think about it. I mean, even if used prices don't collapse, you can still have a crash in terms of transactions. People stop buying, people can't trade, people can't refinance, people can't roll their debt forward anymore because lenders start acting like lenders again. That's the crash. It's not always a movie scene where everything drops 40% overnight. Sometimes it's just the market seizing up and coughing out deals on the vehicles nobody wants at the price nobody can afford. And that brings us to the most important concept in this entire mess. The market is split in half. On one side, you've got buyers with strong credit who can still access decent rates, can still get approved, and can still shop incentives. On the other side, though, you've got subprime buyers getting hit with record delinquencies we talked about. When subprime breaks, it doesn't just hurt subprime, it floods the used car market with repossessions and distressed sales, which drags values, which increases negative equity, which makes it harder for everyone to trade, which forces people to keep cars longer, which then reduces new sales, which makes dealers sit on inventory longer, which makes the incentives bigger, which makes the car market even weirder. It is this chain reaction, as you guys can tell, except the dominoes are financed at 84 months. And now, let's hit on the subject nobody really likes to talk about unless you own one. EVs, because people love blaming EVs for everything like it's a Marvel villain. Kelley Blue Book said the average transaction price for a new EV in January 2026 was $55,715, down from December. They also said EV incentives were still way above the industry average, around 12.4% of transaction price in January. So EVs are living in a different incentive universe, which can create weird pressure on the market because it trains consumers to wait for deals and it forces automakers to protect margins in other places, and it adds to the general vibe that prices are made up and the rules aren't real. But again, the crash, as I say, isn't one thing. It's multiple weak points lining up and waiting their turn. So here are the weak points that actually matter. Based on the data we just covered, we have high overall new car vehicle prices, still near $50,000 transaction. We have swelling negative equity with a record share of underwater trade-ins carrying 5-figure deficits, and those buyers paying record monthly payments. We have subprime delinquency hitting record levels for 60-day late payments. We have repossessions up sharply in the post-pandemic period, with the most recent full-year estimate for 2024 near Great Recession territory. We have days supply rising towards triple digits because demand cooled while inventory held, and we have auto loan balances sitting at about $1.66 trillion, meaning the entire system is leveraged. That is your recipe, not for every car gets cheaper tomorrow, but for a correction that shows up like this: more incentives, more rate promotions, bigger discounts on slower movers, lots of pain on high-priced trucks and big SUVs when payments get too spicy, softer trade-in offers because dealers don't want to overpay for a used unit while the risk is rising, more buyers trapped because they're upside down, more repos feeding the used supply at the bottom, and then eventually the market does the most brutal thing it can do. It normalizes, which feels like a crash if you bought at the top. Now, if you're the viewer, the question is not, is the market crashing? The question is, where is the leverage? Because this is how you win in a messy market. If you're shopping new, you target the cars that have been sitting the longest, you hunt incentives, and you do not get hypnotized by a monthly payment that only works because the loan term is long, way too long, and qualifies as a relationship. You look at total cost, you look at the interest, and you refuse to roll negative equity unless you enjoy paying for your old car twice. If you're shopping used, well, just get entered to win this one, or you just watch repos and subprime stress because that's where the supply shows up. But you also remember wholesale values aren't necessarily collapsing, so you don't wait forever expecting everything to drop in half. You wait for the specific moment when dealers need to move a unit, or when incentives spill over, or when a model is overstocked. And if you already own a car and you're thinking about trading, well, you check your equity first, not your feelings, not your I think it's worth. You check what you owe, what it's worth, and whether you're about to join the 5-figure negative equity club, where the membership fee is your sanity. Because the quiet truth of this year, well, it's this: the market doesn't have to explode to punish people. If payments stay high, if prices stay high, if credit gets tighter, and if negative equity keeps spreading, the market punishes you through options. It takes away your exits. That's the crash. That's the crash when people can't move. And if you're watching this right now, you can literally see the battlefield forming. Inventory is there. Prices are still high. Debt is huge. Credit stress is rising where it always rises first, and negative equity is turning a normal trade-in into a financial trapdoor. So yeah, call it a crash, call it a correction, call it the end of pretending, but this year, the car market is finally doing the thing it avoided for years. It's meeting the consumer where the consumer actually is, and the consumer is tired, broke, upside down, and one unexpected bill away from deciding that walking is actually kind of healthy. So let me know in the comments down below, what do you think of the car market crash of this year? I want to know your thoughts. I did a few days of research and, well, this is what I came up with. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Like, subscribe. We're trying to hit 100,000 subscribers, so it would really mean a lot. And check out some of these ideal vids over here. And remember to go to winthisIdealcar.com to get entered to win either the Shelby GT350 or the Fast and Furious Mark V Supra. I'm Brad Danger. This is Ideal. Promise me one thing. Keep living the ideal lifestyle.